Guys, it's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I figured we'd hit the Thursday game. It's crazy. Aaron Rodgers has not played a snap since week one, and he's in the news more than almost any other quarterback. But anyway, of course, that's all just forced talking points. For this game, I wasn't sold. I wasn't completely sold on the Browns getting in, especially once they lost Watson, just because I wasn't sure what they were going to do. But obviously, at 10-5, they're making the playoffs. There's no point in them losing this game to make things interesting. Basically, all the teams that have any kind of prayer would not. They would have to flip another team, not the Browns. The Browns are pretty locked in. So anyway, a team like the Colts would have to get flipped out. Those kind of teams. So anyway, for this game, I think the Browns are going to win it. I think now at this point, you got to make them look strong. They've been pretty inconsistent this year, and it's a 7.5 point line. So the Hall of Fame game the Browns won, and I went into was interesting because it was the first game that they had played since Jim Brown had died, and sometimes I look at redemption angles, but that was a preseason game. Jets, even though it was a sloppy win, they're coming off a win. Browns, if you look at the last several games, where they at here, they've looked pretty good, but they haven't creamed anyone. I guess the Texans would be their biggest one, but they just haven't looked amazing. And the Jets, they've had a couple of swings and a couple misses, and then they had the blowout of the Texans. They got the Commanders. So both teams have been relatively inconsistent. I think they want to push the Browns' defense heading into the playoffs. So I think they're going to blank the Jets, or just a very low-scoring game where we might get something like. I could think we can get something as low-scoring as 16-3 or something like that. Maybe a little bit higher, but I think the under is definitely a good play. But my favorite play of the two of all of them is the Browns for the cover. 7.5 could be a clip. You see it move from 6.5 to 7.5, but I still like the Browns for the cover. I think they're going to win pretty decisively. It's a redemption game for Flacco playing his old team. And a couple weeks ago, I went into the playoff predictions when I had decided, okay, yeah, the Browns are going to get in because they make more sense than the Colts. They make more sense than a lot of these other teams. And then you have the possibly Flacco versus Ravens storyline. I don't think he played them this year, even though they played twice. I don't know. Maybe they haven't played their second game yet. I'm not sure. But I know he hasn't played him yet. The first time they played, I think it was DTR. Might have even been Watson. But I don't believe he's played them this year. And I think we're not going to have a lot of rubber matches in the postseason as far as teams playing for a third time. But Browns-Ravens would make some sense, especially if you add Flacco to the equation. But either way, he's got a former team here. A team that's probably, again, I think they're going to, at this point, and I think it makes more sense for them to lose out. They wouldn't be able to get, say, Marvin Harrison, but they'd be able to get somebody that really brings some fan engagement over to the Jets, whether it's a top defensive player, a guy like Brock Bowers, just one of these guys coming out of college. I think the Jets could snag up, and it would just, again, with Rodgers next year, they'll just rerun the same story. And the Browns, yeah, I think they need this decisive win, akin to the Ravens, how they just cremated the Niners, only against the Jets. The Jets aren't that good, but it would be to get people believing in the Browns, So when they play the Dolphins or whoever it is in the first round, people actually believe they have a chance. They really haven't had many of those games this year. So yeah, nothing too crazy, nothing too long. I like the Browns here for the cover, and it might move a little more. So whether you want to buy a half point or just take the 7.5, I don't like getting juiced, and I think they're going to win by double digits. So that one shouldn't be too big of a deal. And I'll have, of course, I think we have Saturday coming up. Of course, again, more Saturday games. We got the Sunday schedule, so I'll have all of them coming out as well. I want to go into. A lot of people have been pointing out the Christmas picture, and to me, it's another article I saw, and a lot of different things seem to be foreshadowing, which has been our prediction since the beginning of the year. Niners win versus the Ravens. It just seems like that might have been a Super Bowl preview. I went into it a little bit in my last video, but there's a lot of different commonalities I've realized and just saw that I think really makes sense. So you go let me know. I know a lot of people are saying Cowboys. I got some people again saying Eagles. On the AFC side, I'm seeing a lot saying Dolphins. So we'll have to see what happens. I personally think Ravens Niners makes a lot of sense for a lot of different reasons. And again, there's a couple interesting, whether it was in plain sight symbolism or just however, Freudian slips. I've noticed a couple different images and articles and just historical backlights that kind of point to the Niners and Ravens. But as far as this week, I think we're getting ready for the playoffs. Flacco looks really good in my opinion. I think he's going to look good. The defense probably steps up big. The Jets defense is obviously a good defense, but they've given up on that team this year. You got Wilson, and I mean, sure, he could come out and just go nuts. Oh no, I think didn't they replace him with Ripon or something? Either way, I'd be thinking of Russell Wilson. I know he got benched too for somebody. I think he got benched for Stidham. But my point is, or Stidham, however you pronounce it, I think it's closed down time for the Jets. Get a top 5-6 pick. I think they can still get a top 5-6 pick if they lose out. It depends on how other teams do. Obviously, you're going to have the Cardinals, Patriots, Panthers ahead of them. But they might finish worse than the Bears. They might finish worse than the Chargers. So they can get a pretty good pick. And I think it's still in New York. Having the Jets get a top pick and the Giants, giving them both top picks will really invigorate those fan bases. So yeah, looking at this game, not too much qualms. I like the Browns here for the cover. So take care and happy earnings.